Namaste and hello, this is your Sanskrit instructor welcoming you back into lesson number 46. We just finished up the fourth conjugation, and now what I would like to introduce to you are irregular verbs. Yes, just like English, just like French, just like Spanish, there are also irregular verbs in Sanskrit, and we're going to be going over the vocabulary words that are conjugated irregularly. So let's take a look at what it says here. So both in the first and in the fourth conjugations, there are verbal roots which form their base irregularly. So that is the regular part of it. It's not the termination endings. The termination endings remain the same, but it's the way how the base is formed. Usually in the first conjugation, you have to take the verbal base has to take gurna, then you have to add up, then you have to take sandhi into account, then you have to add your termination ending. There is like a step-by-step method. In the fourth conjugation, you have to, it doesn't take gurna, you just have to add the ya, and then you add at the end, and then you add the termination. Steps, and steps. But there's no steps here in the irregular verbs as far as how they actually get to the base. So that's why they're called irregular verbs. So this is just about memorization to learn about them. There's not a method to derive to them. You just have to memorize that the verbal base comes from this verbal root just by putting it to memory and into practice. So I have two columns here. I have the first conjugation, then I have in the red or in the light orange, then I have the fourth conjugation in the blue. And then in those colored columns, among those colored columns, I have the verbal root, and then I have the definition, and then I have an example as how you were to conjugate it in third person singular. Okay, so first and then fourth. What is the difference between the two? So you're still going to have in the fourth conjugation, you're still going to add ya to the end in the fourth conjugation. That's why they're called fourth conjugation verbal roots, because you're still adding ya to the end. In the first conjugation, you're not adding ya, so at the end of it, you're not going to see a ya. So let's go over the first conjugation, irregular verbs first, then we'll go over the fourth conjugation. So we have the verbal root is gum. It means to go. Gum, by the time you conjugate it into third person singular, that's gachati. He goes. He, she, or it goes. Then you have yum, to restrain. That ends up to being yachati. He, she, or it restrains. Then you have guh, to hide. That becomes guhati. He, she, or it hides. Sad, to sit. That becomes sidati. He, she, or it sits. Then you have gra, means to smell. And look at what it becomes. It becomes jigrati. He, she, or it smells. Pa, to drink, becomes pibati. He, she, or it drinks. Sta, to stand, becomes tishtati. Remember, shta could also be written like this. So you write the sh at the top, and then you have like a little circle coming at the bottom. So that's shta. Let me write that better. So that would be shta. So instead of writing this, you could also write this as well. Just to remind you. Tishtati. Then you have dunch, to bite, becomes dashati. Then dhma, to blow, becomes dhamati. Drish, to see, becomes pashyati. And now for the fourth conjugation words. And notice that there's a ya in all of these, okay? Because the ya is added in the fourth conjugation. Whereas the first conjugation, you don't see a ya. So that's how you can tell. It's just the termination ending. So that's how you can tell the difference between whether it is a first conjugation irregular verb or a fourth conjugation irregular verb. So we have div to play becomes divyati. Then sham to cease becomes shamyati. Now remember the word ashwaha. So ashwaha, the sha looked like this. So that plus the stroke at the end, that becomes, this letter becomes shra. That is a compound letter. So that is shram, to be weary, and that's shramyati. Then we have mud, to rejoice. That is madhyati. Madhyati. He, she, or it rejoices. Then we have vyad, to pierce, becomes vidhyati. He, she, or it pierces. Then pramsh becomes to fall, and then that is prashyati. Then ksham, to forgive, becomes okay, so ksham, to forgive, is supposed to be kshamyati. Then bhram, to means to roam or to err, is bhramyati. So these are all of your new vocabulary words that will just have to be committed to memory. I'll slowly scroll for you guys so you could take a look at all of them. And that's it for your irregular verbs for now. And this is your Sanskrit instructor signing off with a namaste.